שהקדוש ברוך הוא מגיע ברכה והצלחה, and only to hear good news, and only B'at Hashem together in His house for בשורות טובות, and at the smachot of your sons, B'ezrat Hashem. But before we get into what today we're going to be speaking of, and the shiur of the day, the hilullah of the day, I wanted to explain really that tonight was mamash mishamayim. It was not stam that we all gathered here tonight to drink do lechaim and to eat a couple of bachot. Mamash, it was mishamayim. You know, Rabotai, there's some tzaddikim that they don't receive the recognition that they deserve. There's some tzaddikim that they are really big tzaddikim that sometimes we take for granted and we don't really hold by what they truly are worth. And one of those tzaddikim is Rabbi Rephael Pinto. Rabbi Rephael was really a tzaddik which was Kodesh Kodashim. Before we get into who was Rabbi Rephael, how does he connect to the mishpacha? He was one of the sons of Rephael Pinto the Tzaddik and the brother of my grandfather. Now, the entire year, every year I try to remember and fall on the hilullah of Rabbi Rephael. But every single year something happens and I completely forget. That's usually when the time when I go to Israel, and I end up forgetting. This year I said there's no way. And I was keeping on the calendar, always checking and making sure that the day of the hilullah I'm going to pray, I'm going to do something. I said I have to. Even if it's a minyan, to do a little bit of divrei Torah about the tzaddik, I have to. And like that, I was tracking it until around a month ago. Then a month ago, I completely, in my head, lost it completely. I knew that it was in 3 weeks, but I completely forgot. Last week, when we were sitting all together, Rabbi Avner got up, and he said that next week we do it Thursday night at my house. I said, you know what, okay, I didn't think I had anything planned for Thursday. I said, yeah, Thursday night we do it at your house. It was Sunday morning or Monday morning. I remembered the hilullah of Rabbi Rephael. And I said, well, Shuma, I forgot again this year. So I check again, and I see it falls when? Thursday night. And then I remember that Rabbi Avner decided to do a shiur for the hilullah. So I told him, I said, it's not a shiur, it's an hilullah. A shiur it was before, now it's an hilullah. So I had prepared divrei Torah for Parashat Beshalach, but we don't care about that right now. We're going to put that aside, and we're going to speak about the hilullah of the day. The reason of the day, the cause of the day, which is the hilullah of Rabbi Rephael Pinto. Rabotai, when I enter in a hilullah, a lot of the times, I guess you also see in the Dvar Torah, that all the Torah that could exist in the week, like the parasha, I put aside. And there's a reason for that. It's not that we come here and we gather around and we're going to say now a couple of stories of Rabbi Rephael, and that's going to replace what our Dvar Torah. How does that replace our Dvar Torah? So there's something deeper when we speak about a tzaddik, when we try to connect ourselves to a tzaddik. Why is it so important? As we know, there are two koach, two powers, two brachot that come down to a person. There are two different sources that bracha and help and beside Dishmaya can come down to an individual. One from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that a person personally connects himself to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and a person personally receives bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but sometimes, Rabotai, it can be a little bit difficult. The best analogy that I give to really understand this is like a king that wants to give a gift to an average, very, very simple person who lives in his kingdom. It's very rare that the king will have a personal connection, one-on-one, and bring personally the bracha to this simple person who lives in the country. It's a very rare thing. It's not that every single day the president in our case, in our situation, will come and speak and personally give a blessing and a bracha to an individual. It happens, but it's very rare, it's very hard. It's like a person to reach his hand out and to hope that it tries to connect to another place, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It happens, but it's very, very hard. That's one source of bracha that comes down to a person. The second source of bracha is the bracha that comes down through a tzaddik. The Bisada Deshmaya that comes down through a tzaddik. We know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is far, but the tzaddikim are much closer than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If we are able to connect ourselves to a tzaddik, and we are able to have a personal connection with a tzaddik, then that tzaddik becomes our messenger. He becomes our middleman, that he stands in the middle of the journey, He takes our tefillah, he takes what we're asking for, brings it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and delivers back the bracha. He's essentially the middleman, and that, Rabotai, is a concept in the Chassidut. It's mentioned many times, especially in the Chassidut of Rabbi Nachman. It's mentioned the concept of the Rav and the Talmid, the teacher and the student. That everything you need a teacher and a student. You have the teacher, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you have the student, which is the Tzaddik. Without the teacher and the student, you don't have a complete, pure connection. And that, Rabotai, is something very interesting we see in Birkat Kohanim. In Birkat Kohanim, what do we read? V'samti et shemi al bnei Yisrael. Finish, Rabotai. V'ani evarachem. Put my name on Bnei Israel. The Kohanim will lift their hands, and I will bless Bnei Israel. And this is the question that I always had. Why, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is blessing Bnei Israel, why do we need the Kohanim?
They are the king.
There you go. That's you jump to the answer, Baruch Hashem. But to... No, it's very good. It's good when someone jumps to the answer. Like what Rabbi Stefan said here. They are the Keli. That, yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need the Kohanim in order to bring down the bracha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need the Kohanim to stand up with their hands up to send down the bracha. But there needs to be a messenger, a pipeline. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can send down bracha, but there's no guarantee that it's going to fall into your cup. There's no guarantee that the bracha will fall onto you, will go into your life. But if there is a pipeline, if there is the Kohen that comes down as the middleman, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hands the bracha to the Kohen or to the Tzaddik, and through the middleman gets transferred to the person, it's a much easier journey. And the easiest way to example it is like the sky that is raining. Water goes everywhere. There's no concentration of bracha, there's no help of concentration of bracha where it all falls down into one place. But if you put a funnel, what's going to happen? All the bracha suddenly falls into one little vessel. It all concentrates in one area. That, Rabotai, is the concept of connecting yourself with a tzaddik, with having a personal connection one-on-one with a tzaddik. It's not that we come and we pray to the tzaddik and we hope that the tzaddik will help us. It's not. It's that we're using the tzaddik as the middleman, as the vessel, as the shaliach that takes our tefillot, brings them to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and vice versa. Brings the bracha and brings it down to us. And that, Rabotai, is very important, to find a tzaddik that we connect to. Because if we just come and we light to tzaddikim that we don't have a personal connection, it's what? It's like you come and you light the candle to what? For no reason. That is why it's so important to find the tzaddikim that the person connects to. That is why, always in hilullah, I try my best to bring as many stories that show a little bit of the character of the tzaddik. It's very hard for us to connect to his neshama. We can't. We're not at that level where our neshama feels their neshama. But our brains could connect to their character. And if your brain and your heart connect to him on his character basis, that you know what, then you're one step closer to finding the tzaddik that matches your neshama. That the neshama of yourself matches their neshama, and both of the neshamot can connect and work as one. And that, Rabotai, is something very, very important. As well as something very interesting that we mentioned already, Chassidut already mentioned Rabbi Nachman. That Rabbi Nachman speaks about the two fights, the Yetzer Hara, and I think we spoke about this. I don't remember when. The two fights the Yetzer Hara does to a person. That only with the help of the tzaddik, the person can fight and win both of these fights. What are these two fights that we have? And this, Rabotai, we see this a lot in our generation. We see, Rabotai, sometimes that the Yetzer Hara comes to a person that's about to do teshuvah. A person that's far from keeping Torah, far from keeping mitzvot, doesn't put tefillin, doesn't keep Shabbat. Lat, he's making his journey. In the beginning, what is Yetzer Hara going to do? He comes to him and he tells him, you, don't keep Shabbat this week. Yalla, turn on the light, it's fine, it's only 1 week. Start tomorrow, start next week. Or tefillin, today you're busy, skip today. There's no reason for you to put on tefillin today. You're late, you're going to miss your work. The Yetzer Hara in the beginning, he tries to make the fight on the actual actions of the person. That he makes his fight on avoiding you from doing the mitzvot. But Rabotai, what happens when a person got used to doing the mitzvot? And this is what we see, Rabotai, a lot of people that they're used to putting on tefillin, they're used to keeping Shabbat. That to come to a Rav or a person that keeps Shabbat all his life and to tell him, I want you to come and turn on the light, is it even a thought? Is it even a debate? Is there any fight between Yetzer Hara and the person? There's no fight. Why? Because the habit. And we know, Rabbi, that that's a shiur for another time, the koach of the habit. the habit is not only a habit that you get your hand used to doing something, or your brain or your thought get used to doing something. Habit is something that is deeper than a person's conscience. Habit is something that you root in the neshama of the person, that specific habit. And that, Rabotai, is actually the concept of Gehenna. People see Gehenna as a bad thing. Gehenna is a very good thing. Gehenna is a blessing for many neshamot. Because what is Gehenna? Gehenna, it separates the habit of doing the sin and the neshama. That the habit is so strong that it even puts his roots down in the neshama of the person. And that's a...
The habit can be something good also.
Habit can be something good. Habit can be the best thing or the worst thing. And you understand why I say the best thing or the worst thing. And in this we spoke about, we're going to do a shiur about habit and why habit is deeper than what we think. It's just getting used to doing something.
Yeah, and it's lost his power when somebody can do like Shabbat.
So what does he do?
Or somebody used to eat any restaurant and he decided to be more religious and not go to unkosher food, for example. At the beginning it's going to make him to have the envy, but after that, when he saw there is no more power on him and it doesn't go...
So what does he do then?
So that's it. He has no more Yetzirah on that, but he goes to something else.
So that's the first fight. When Yetzirah sees a person that he knows he lost him as a friend. Yetzirah knows, with him I have no more relationship. Why? Because he got used to doing Torah mitzvot. He got used to keeping Shabbat. He got used to putting tefillin. He got used to eating kasher. For me to try to convince him is impossible. So what does Yetzirah do? He says, I'm going to go to a fight which is deeper than just the surface. Tzaddik, come sit. I'm going to start a fight which is deeper than just the surface. I'm going to go into the heart of the person. How am I going to fight him from the inside? I make all those habits of doing mitzvot meaningless. To lock his heart. And that, Rabotai, is something that we all fight with. Sometimes when we read tefillot, when we do our prayer that we read every day, we come and we say, I read it every day because I'm used to it. But I don't have the fire that I had before when I just started. The fire of starting Teshuvah, the fire of starting Shabbat, it dies out. It's not that the fire itself dies out. It's that the Yetzirah moves this fight from the surface into your heart. And that, Rabotai, is the hardest fight. Because for a person to fight himself in his own heart, it's a person fighting himself from the inside. Rabotai, and this is what we see a lot of the times, we have a coldness. The heat of getting up and doing the mitzvot, it wears out. It's not that Chas v'Shalom, the mitzvah wears out, that the Kedusha, we get used to the Kedusha. That the Yetzirah moves this fight from the surface to deep inside our own hearts. And that, Rabotai, is the big fight that the person fights. And that, Rabotai, is the fight that even the Rabbanim fight, the fight that all the religious people fight, that you see them, they pray in 5 minutes, that they do tefillot, they do mitzvot, without meaning, they do them with cold, they do it because they're used to it, not because they have the heat of the Torah and mitzvot. And that is the deep fight that Rabbi Nachman speaks about all the time. Rabotai, when a person tries to fight himself from the inside, where does he go to? What does he do? When a person sees himself struggling to keep a mitzvah, when a person sees himself struggling to have kavanah when he prays, what does he do? He's like, Kadosh Baruch Hu, I need some of your help. Please help me with this. Strengthen my emunah. Start some sort of flame. Because Rabotai, to fight that fight on our own is almost impossible. So what do? We need help. How do we bring help? You can connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But like we said, it's a little bit difficult. So what do? You bring a tzaddik. You involve a tzaddik that your neshama connects to. When you bring that tzaddik to help you, that tzaddik becomes your right-hand man. That tzaddik becomes your soldier that stands with you and fights the fight that even with yourself, you see it as a difficult fight. Because it's a fight within yourself. And that is why, Rabotai, finding a tzaddik that we connect to is very important. Finding a tzaddik that we look forward to light a candle to, and we look forward to come to the point where we're quiet, we're just us and the tzaddik, speaking to the tzaddik is very important. Because without that tzaddik, we can win the fight of keeping Shabbat, we can win the fight of putting tefillin every day, because that could become a habit. But the fight to truly make what we're used to on a daily basis, with a fire, to do it with heart, to do it with love, that is a fight that you need B'Siyata Dishmaya from a higher place. Because it's a fight that you can do. And that we even see with Rabbi Natan. Rabbi Natan, the one that wrote all the books of Rabbi Nachman, witnesses on himself At the age of 21, we spoke about this, at the age of 21, he was sad. He was quiet, he was depressed. Why? Because he was keeping Torah mitzvot. They called him the Ilui. He was already in Ilui at the age of 12, but he had no fire. He had no tzaddik giving him the help to grow from his heart. The milchama, that war in his own heart, he was not able to conquer. Until when? Until he met who? The tzaddik, Rabbi Nachman. So that's why Rabotai, it's so important to find a tzaddik that you connect to. I always tell people that they're doing a tshuva. Go read stories of tzaddikim. Go look for a tzaddik that when you read it, you go, I want to find another story of this tzaddik. And that tzaddik that you are interested in his own being, in his own midot, grab that tzaddik, find the tzaddik that you connected to, hold him tight, and run with him. Because only like that we have the Seder Shemaim.
Yeah, he works for everything, not only...
He gives you bracha, he does everything.
It's like somebody's connecting to a Dvar Torah you give, and somebody else going to the Dvar Torah, you have no connection. You work for everything.
That is
there
why,
is something talking to your neshama.
that is why it's important to find a tzaddik that you
And
connect
not only talking to a tzaddik, like the tefillot we do every day, the thing we print,
to.
it's my connection.
Emet. Every person needs to find, and this is what I always speak, there is no set recipe that we can all take, copy and paste on our own lives to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We all need to find the path, if it's to strengthen our tefillah, if it's to strengthen our emunah, to find our connection, to strengthen our own connection with ourselves, and only that way we can come closer. Not by looking at what the other one did and trying to imitate it one by one, and we think that we're going to have the same success that he did. He had that success because in his Shama comes from a place that it will succeed that way. But you can't guarantee anything. So that Rabbotai is the introduction to the Dvar Torah. Now we're going to get into the Hashem to the Tzaddik, Rabbi Rephael Pinto. Rabbotai, before we get into the Tzaddik, Rabbi Rephael Pinto, we have to understand that he was not a Tzaddik that was your everyday average Tzaddik that you learn about an halakha that he wrote, or you learn about that a story that he did. Rabbi Rephael Pinto was one of those Tzaddikim that no one was able to truly come down to his mind of thought. He was one of those tzaddikim that as much as you think you knew what is going on inside, you knew only a quarter of a percent. Rabbi Rephael, at a certain point, he was like one of those tzaddikim, like Rav Zusha, like Rav Emily Melech. They looked at him as a little bit interesting. And actually the tzaddik Rabbi Avraham knows him. He met him on a personal level. Rabbi Avraham, he met him as a kid at a personal level. It was told about Rabbi Rephael that when he would see specific people in the street, and this, we're not even entering, this is just fun to understand what type of a person he was. He would run up to the people and he would scream in their ears. Scream in their ears, but not scream talking or just to scream. No one understood what are these screams that he does when he comes to people and he screams at them or something like that. Later on, something that I heard which is amazing, that my Chavuta was very close with Rav Kaduri. That there was a Mekubal in Yerushalayim that Rav Kaduri would send people to do them lachash. What lachash means? Lachash in translation means whisper. And wherever Rav Kaduri was a big Mekubali, wherever he thought needed lachash, wherever he needed what we call whisper, he would send to this Rav, to this Mekubal. This young Mekubal, he would sit in front of him, and it's told about him that all the people that went to see him got very scared. Because they're sent to get whisper, and suddenly they stand in front of him and he starts to scream. Which is something that we don't understand. Why? We don't know. That is already, we're not at that level to even try to understand where Rabbi Rephael came with the things that he came with. But now we're going to enter really who Rabbi Rephael was before he entered. Rabbi Rephael was a part of something bigger than just a regular tzaddik from the moment he came down to this world. It was told at his Brit Milah that the sandak of his Brit Milah was who? Was Rabbi Pinto, his father. At the Brit Milah, when Rabbi Pinto was holding his son and they named him Rephael, it was told that Rabbi Chaim was crying. And Rabbi Chaim couldn't stop crying over his son. All the guests, they came and they said, I don't understand Rabbi Chaim. It's the Brit Milah of your son. You are sitting sandak and you're crying like as if someone died. What is happening here? Rabbi Chaim Pinto looked at all those guests and asked that question. And he said, I'm crying over my son because I know that my son will die a very hard death. Already from the beginning of his life, Rabbi Rephael already had his fate, his mission, the reason he came down to the world, and what he had to go through to fix it, all written and prepared. Rabbi Pinto already saw how Rabbi Rephael would live his life and how he would end his life. And I would like to also integrate into the Dvar Torah a couple of lessons that we can learn on a daily basis. That is the opening. Now we're going to get into a couple of stories. Rabbi Rephael was known to being one of the tzaddikim that had a true, deep ruach hakodesh. He had mamash a deep ruach hakodesh where he was able to see on a person what is happening in the mazal of the person in that very moment. It was told about Rabbi Rephael that one time he was walking in the Melach, in the shuk of Morocco. And suddenly he was passing by a big factory, a big store, where there they would produce cloths. They would produce cloths, clothing, I don't know what they were making there. And one of the partners of that business was standing outside. When Rabbi Rephael sees the partner of that business, he decides to run up to him. Now, in Morocco, everyone did not have a smile relation with Rabbi Rephael. He was known to be very scary. A smile from him, don't expect. A smile from Rabbi Rephael, don't expect. He was known to be a very, very serious, very, very scary person. When the partner of this business sees Rabbi Rephael running towards him, he runs into his store and he tells his partner, Rabbi Rephael is about to walk in here. So right away, all the partners, they stand behind the desk, and everyone's waiting now for the tzaddik, Rabbi Rephael, to walk into the door. Rabbi Rephael enters the door, and he looks at the owners, and he tells the owners, I want a big sum of money right now for tzedakah. Now, the owners of the business, they look at Rabbi Rephael, and they tell Rabbi Rephael, they say, every time you come, we give you tzedakah. Every single time you come with another statement of you want this amount of money, and we give it to you. Baka, enough. We're not going to give you the amount of money that you want. Rabbi Rephael heard this. He said, listen, I'm doing it for your good. I'm asking you, give me this sum of money for Panasa, for the poor, for the poor of Morocco, and let me go. And I'm telling you, it's for your benefit. The partner looked at his other partner, and looked at one another, and he said, today we have no money to give you. Go home. Rabbi Rephael looked at those two partners, and he said, it's too bad. And he got up and he walked out. It was told that in that day, a big group of Muslims walked into that store. They held both of those partners hostage. They robbed the store, they emptied the store, and they nearly killed both of these people. Right after, when they were released from the situation, they ran to Rabbi Rephael. And Rabbi Rephael explained to them that when he saw the partner, he saw that on the head of that partner, a big deen was standing. A big judgment was standing right over his head. And he knew that the only way to take off that deen was if he gives this sum of tzedakah. And that, Rabotai, is the subject that I want to get into, which is the famous sentence of Shlomo Melech, that tzedakah tatzil mimavet. What is the concept of tzedakah tatzil mimavet? We know, Rabotai, that when a person receives chas v'shalom, a judgment that comes down to him, if it's for something that he did, or if it's just something that he has to go through, we know that judgment does not get cancelled. When judgment comes down to the world, we know what the Zohar says and what the Gemara brings, that when judgment comes down to the world, it cannot be cancelled. But what could happen to it? It could be passed on, moved on. Shlomo HaMelech, which was the smartest person in the world, he brought us and he taught us a little trick. That with this trick, we are able to take off judgment that is supposed to fall on our head. How do we take off judgment that is supposed to fall on our head? We buy it. How do we buy it? We buy it like everything. The same way you come and you go to a store and you buy something. A person, like a who gives the chance to a person to come forward and to buy any judgment is supposed to come down to the person. And that is the concept of tzedakah, that's in mimavet. That when a person receives judgment, he has the opportunity to come forward and to buy off that judgment that is on his head. And that, sometimes we find in our own lives that People come to us to ask for tzedakah and we refuse. Sometimes, Rabotai, we see situations that are very, very unique and we refuse. Rabotai, when situations that are unique happen, we have to take into consideration that we never know. It could be tzedakah tetzimimah. And that is why it is so important to always look where to give tzedakah. So a beautiful story that one time, Rabbi Rephael was walking in the graveyard. And while he was walking in the graveyard, he saw that there was a woman standing on one of the graves of one of the big tzaddikim in Morocco. When Rabbi Rephael saw this woman, he ran up to her and he told this woman, I want you to give me another big sum of money. And Rabbi Rephael, all the Pinto were known for doing this. It's amazing. Give me a big sum of money. The woman looked at Rabbi Rephael and she said, you know, Rav, I don't have any money on me. So Rabbi Rephael said, don't lie to me. I know that you have money on you. It's not for me. Give me the sum of money and I'll let you go. So this woman said, Rav, I promise you I don't have any money on me. I'm telling you I have no money on me. So Rabbi Rephael said, Chaval. It's a chaval that you're going to lie. So she told Rabbi Rephael, I swear on both my legs that I have no money on me to give you. When Rabbi Rephael heard this, what did he do? He looked at her. He said, Amen. He said, you swear that if you have no money, that you swear on both of your legs? Amen. And he got up and he walked away. This lady, she said, okay, Rabbi Rephael, he's interesting. We're not going to, it's fine. When she was walking home, a big wind came and made her hat, her chapeau, fly. And in that hat, that was where she kept all the money that walking, to not get stolen, she would put it in her hat. When the hat flew, she quickly turned around to run after the hat to find it. When she caught the hat, she fell. What happened to her? Both of her legs got cracked. They broke. When this happened, she ran to Rabbi Rephael. They dragged her to Rabbi Rephael and said, Rabbi Rephael, what did you do? She's asking for mechila. So Rabbi Rephael looked at her. He said, you know, when I saw you in the graveyard, I saw the Satan, not judgment, the Satan standing on top of your head. And the Satan, his mission of the day was to take your life. When I saw that, I knew that I was able to buy it out. How can I buy out that judgment from you? Ask from you the big sum of money. But you were being tough. And you didn't want to give me that money, that it was for your own benefit. So what did I do? I went to that tzaddik that you were standing, that you were praying by. And I told that tzaddik, I am asking from you, stand with her and protect her. Because if you don't stand with her and protect her, the Satan is going to take her today. And that tzaddik stood with you and protected you and gave you the own punishment that you chose for yourself. Instead of chas v'shalom, the Satan taking you today, the Satan, with the merit of that tzaddik that's with you, he protected you and gave you, instead of chas v'shalom being taken away, the punishment that you asked for yourself. That is the koach of tzedakah tetzimimah. And there's many stories of Rabbi Rephael, especially with this little touch of the tzedakah tetzimimah. It was told that one time Rabbi Rephael went to a house of a very rich man. And when he entered the house of this very rich man, he asked from the very rich man a big sum of money again. And the very rich man was offended from Rabbi Rephael. He was Moroccan. He didn't, Shuma, you come to me back the second time. He kicked him out of the house. When he kicked him out of the house, Rabbi Rephael said, it's a chaval that you're kicking me out of this house. Because right now, I came to save your store. And right now, as we speak, you had the opportunity to save your entire business. So go to your business now and salvage what you can save. Because your store is burnt to ashes. It was told that that rich man, when he went to his store, his entire factory, all what he worked for his entire life, was burnt to ashes. All these stories are not from mouth to mouth, they're all written in books. It's not...
it's real.
Shot Chaim, we call it. It's the book of Mishpat. All these stories are written mamash in books. And that Rabotai was the koach of Rabbi Rephael. Rabbi Rephael was also known for being a person that you don't want to mess with. You don't want chas v'shalom to make Rabbi Rephael angry. And that is what the Mishnah brings about Talmidei Chachamim. That what does the Mishnah say about the Talmid Chacham? The Mishnah said about the Talmid Chacham that Nishichato k'nishichat shual. You want to continue it? V'akitzato k'akitzat akrav. And his hiss is the hiss of a snake. I'm going to translate. His bite is the bite of a wolf. His sting is the sting of a scorpion. And his hiss is the hiss of a serpent. That the Talmid Chacham, when the Talmid Chacham, especially with these tzaddikim that had neshamot that came from a higher place, when those tzaddik, when they gave a bracha, the bracha stood. When they said that something would happen, what they said happened. But chas v'shalom, when you test the tzaddik, it's not that chas v'shalom he will judge you. It's his merit, his ancestors, his zchuyot that stand in his name, chase that person that disrespected that Torah. It was told that one time a group of Moroccans came to Rabbi Rephael, and they came to receive blessings. And when they came to receive blessings, one of the people was sitting in the back of the room, and he was quiet. And he had no interest to get involved with speaking with Rabbi Rephael. He had no interest of getting involved of, if it was asking blessings, speaking about Divrei Torah, nothing. Afterwards, Rabbi Rephael looked at him, and he said, why aren't you talking? What do you want? Everyone came here for brachot. What bracha do you want? So this man looked at Rabbi Rephael, and he said, from you I don't want anything. A bracha from you I don't want, because I don't believe in brachot. I don't believe that a tzaddik gives a bracha, and the bracha suddenly comes to be. We have emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu and nothing else. So Rabbi Rephael looked at him. He said, you sure you don't want any bracha now? Because right now I can give you a bracha. Now you can choose if you want a bracha, if you don't want a bracha. But in 30 minutes, you're going to need a bracha. So this man, he said, I'm going to need a bracha. For what? I'm going to need a bracha for what? I have panasa, I have health, I have everything. So Rabbi Rephael said, okay, I'll see you in 30 minutes. This man, he got up, and he said, this Rabbi is trying to, like I'm going to come back in 30 minutes to ask a bracha from him. It was told that this man took his car and he drove off. When he drove off, he lost control. His car went into a wall and the wall fell on his car. When that happened, they pulled him out of the car. He understood that what happened to him was not for stam. So they told the people that were pulling him out of the car under the wall, take me to Rabbi Rephael right now. And they dragged him to Rabbi Rephael, and it's told that when the house of Rabbi Rephael, when all the people were outside, waiting outside to receive the bracha the tzaddik, they looked and they ran to Rabbi Rephael. They said, that Rasha came back. He's coming right now. He's on his way to receive the bracha. And when he came down the second time, he said that he came and he asked Mechila from the tzaddik. He said, Rabbi Rephael, please, I'm asking you forgiveness. I learned my mistake. I played with fire and I'm stepping back. I played with the Talmid Chacham, and like what the Mishnah says, the bite of the Talmid Chacham is like what? It's like the bite of the wolf. The hiss of the Talmid Chacham is like the hiss of a serpent. So please, I'm asking you Mechila. Rabbi Rephael looked at him and he said, I am a simple person. I will say Mechila with no problem. I will forgive you right now. But I can't promise that Rabbi Pinto, my father, will forgive you. Because when you insulted me, you made him angry out there. So maybe I will forgive you. But Rabbi Chaim, Mechila, that's already not up to me. So this man, he begged Rabbi Rephael. He said, Rabbi Rephael, I'm asking you one thing. You forgive me. If you forgive me, your father will find in himself kindness up there to forgive me. And Rabbi Rephael forgave him and he gave him a bracha. That, Rabotai, was a little bit of the koach of Rabbi Rephael. Rabbi Rephael was, like we said, not only that he had koach, that what he said, and this is the concept of Retzon Ya'av said, the will of the tzaddik, HaKadosh Baruch Hu fulfills. Not only that he had the koach of bracha, that he was a big tzaddik, but the koach of ruach HaKodesh that he had was something that was extremely powerful. Not even, maybe I will give an example or two, but not more than that, because the amount of story that exists just on Rabbi Rephael is mamash extraordinary. They're told about a very rich man, his name was Lasri, that he was an English businessman, that he came to Morocco to receive the bracha of Rabbi Rephael. And he just bought a new Fiat. This is a famous story that goes around about Rabbi Rephael. That he bought a new Fiat, and he wanted a bracha from Rabbi Rephael to give him a bracha that he won't receive Ayin Hara. He had the superstition that he will receive Ayin Hara. So he parked his car 3 blocks down, and he walked to Rabbi Rephael. He said, I don't want Rabbi Rephael to see I bought a new car, because if he sees that I spent a lot of money on a new car, he's going to ask me for a bigger amount of money for tzedakah. So he parked the car far, and he came to the house of Rabbi Rephael. Now it's told that the 10 years before Rabbi Rephael passed away, he never left his home. For 10 years, he was like Rabbi Moshe, like my grandfather. Rabbi Moshe did it for 40, but he did it for 10. And when he arrived to Rabbi Rephael looked at him and he said, why do you park your car far? So he said, Rabbi, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, you bought a new car and you're afraid that I'm going to give you Ayin Hara? You're afraid that you're coming to me to get a bacha for Ayin Hara, but on the other hand, you're hiding the car from me. He said, I give you a bacha for Ayin Hara, but you have to give me now 500, it was a franc. Franc, a French franc, At that time it was, that was the French franc.
Money, yeah.
Huh? So I
So
told him, I said, I want 500 franc right now, and I give you the bacha that you won't have Ayin Hara. So this man, he said, you want me 500 franc, everything okay?
Yeah.
You're adding more.
You just, yeah.
About
Why you stay home 10 years? Why you run for this for 4 years?
According to, when you understand his end, you'll understand why he did that.
Right.
Unfortunately. Is everything okay?
Yeah. You just,
Baruch Hashem. So he told Mr. Lasri, give me the 500 francs and I let you go. Mr. Lasri said, Rav, I came for bracha. I didn't come to give you, you usually ask me 200, 100, now you ask me 500. Let me go and that's it. Rabbi said, okay, you don't want to give me the 500 francs here, you're going to pay the 500 francs somewhere else. When he arrived to his car, his entire car was destroyed by it was scratched. So that Rabbi was the koach of Rabbi Rephael. Rabbi Rephael, as we mentioned in the beginning, it was clear that himself, he knew his own end. Rabbi Rephael in his life was not married for a long period of time. He got married at a very late age, and he got married at what age? To who? To his niece, to the daughter of his sister. And he was married for a few days, and only after a few days, he divorced her, and he parted his way, and he stayed alone until the day he passed away. Never had kids, never had nothing. He lived all his life alone with Rabbi Meir. He took care of Rabbi Meir. His brothers also never got married. Got married for a few days. Rabbi Meir,
1 day.
he got married for 1 day until his wife did this with the sandwich.
He said, I married you for 1 day.
And I can't
divorced, and
with the
he
wife.
said, I stay married with the Torah.
No, that was Rabbi
1
Meir.
day. Rabbi Meir, this is his brother.
So it was told about Rabbi Rephael that the last Shabbat, before he passed away, last Monday, and here I finish Rabotai. Before I went to the story that he got married. So he got married to his niece, and after he divorced his niece, very shortly after he got married, his niece remarried someone else. And this is why Rabotai, there's a lot of things that we don't understand, especially with these big tzaddikim. His niece remarried someone, they lived in Beersheba with actually the sister of Rabbi Rephael and the sister of Rabbi Moshe as well. The Shabbat, and you're going to see why both stories connect. The Shabbat before he passed away, it was very famous that on Motzei Shabbat, there's a big inyan that you do Avdalah with the Rav. You do the Avdalah with the Tzaddik. That's why you know that a lot of Mekubalim, the Avdalah is a big event, a big ceremony that it's very important to do it with the Tzaddik. So the entire city would gather where? At the home of Rabbi Rephael to do Avdalah with the Tzaddik, Rabbi Rephael and Rabbi Meir. The Motzei Shabbat, before he passed away, he was told that Rabbi Rephael was crying. And he was crying and crying, and he didn't want to stop crying. All the guests, they looked at Rabbi Rephael and they said, Rabbi Rephael, Motzei Shabbat we usually sing together. Baruch HaMavdil ben Kodesh lecho ben or lechoshech. Why are you this week crying? So he looked at him and he said, I'm afraid to what they're going to do to me because I never brought kids to the world. I'm afraid that soon I'm going to stand in front of the judge and I don't have kids in the world. I didn't bring kids to the world. No one, Rabotai, understood why Rabbi Rephael said that randomly, because he was healthy, he was very big, very strong.
Strong and big. Oh my God.
Why is Rabbi Rephael making such a statement?
Nobody can tell.
That week, on that upcoming Monday, a group of Arabs entered his home, tied Rabbi Rephael up, and they beat him up until he passed away. Rabbi Meir, his brother, was sick in the bed, watching it. Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Rephael had a connection between the neshamot, something extraordinary. They lived together their entire lives until they passed away. Rabbi Meir had a lot of tsar, a lot of misery, that he lost his brother Rabbi Rephael.
He died just after.
For the 30 days that he was in big tsar, in big suffering, they were searching who is this Arab, who is this person that killed Rabbi Rephael. And Rabbi Meir was quiet, not answering. They asked Rabbi Meir, they said, Rabbi Meir, tell us. We know you know something. And Rabbi Meir, for those 3 days, he wasn't able even to talk from the tsar, from the suffering that he had. I was told that we sat down with one of my uncles. I don't remember which one. It was no, my uncles.
Yes. Uncle.
One of my uncles, either Rabbi Chaim or Rabbi David, or even my father. I don't remember which one. They were sitting down with Rabbi Nissim before he passed away. And on the 30th day, on the Shloshim of Rabbi Rephael, Rabbi Meir sat in his room and he told, I forgot Mechila, what uncle, or if it was my father, Mechila, he told him, read me Shema out loud. So I told him, why? He told him, read me Shema out loud now, and in a few minutes you're going to discover who was the one that killed my brother. So I said, okay. He read Shema, he leaned his head back, he closed his eyes, and he passed away. Rabbi Meir, just from the suffering that he had from Rabbi Meir, he passed away as well. A few minutes later, they found out who was the murderer that killed Rabbi Rephael. Rabbi Rephael, Rabotai, was not a simple tzaddik that we hear about, that we read stories about halacha, read stories about the things he did throughout his life. Rabbi Rephael was a tzaddik and a neshama that very rarely comes down to the world. That we can't try to understand the reasoning behind the things that he did. Because the things that he did go against all logic. The things that he did go against all reason, that the simple things that we understand, they don't match. That's why Rabbi, these tzaddikim, that they have a very interesting life, a very interesting end, a very interesting shoresh neshama, the very interesting roots from where the neshama comes from. It's those tzaddikim that we have to pay the respect that they deserve. So Bezrat Hashem, the merit of the tzaddik of the day.
Amen.
Rabbi Rephael Pinto. Give everyone in this room ברכה והצלחה במקום ידיהם. בזכות הצדיק רבי רפאל שהקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא את כל משאלות לבכם לטובה. ובית השם שיפתח את שערי פרנסה ואושר ושלווה. He will stand with us and give us the strength to fight that war of the heart. Not only the fight of what we do on a day-to-day basis, but the fight that comes from a deep place within ourselves. Amen.